Okay. Oh. All right. You all ready? This meeting of the Eau Claire City Council come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Here.
Berge.
Here.
Brewster.
Here.
Johnson. Imboga.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Schoen.
Here.
Serrano. Worthman.
Here.
Great, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Monday, November 10th meeting of the Eau Claire City Council. If you all are new here tonight, just want to go over how tonight's meeting will work briefly. So staff will present on each item, and then council can ask questions of staff, and then we will open it up for public comment. There are sign-up sheets in the back, so if you could please sign up for if you're here for a certain item or a public comment period, and I will prioritize those who have signed up. After we get through those lists, I'll open it up to council chambers, and those folks will have a time to speak. For the agenda, the notice agenda items, you will have 4 minutes to speak. For the public open public comment period, that's 3 minutes to speak, and I'll go over those different rules as well. Just for other comments about public speaking, there are blue comment cards at the back of the room if you would rather do that instead of speak, or do both. You can always email us, and then there is an electronic comment form on the website you are welcome to use too. So with that, one more thing. So the lights will say how much time you have left. So green is keep talking, yellow is you have 1 minute left, and red is please stop talking. And I will remind you to please stop talking. So just to make sure we have enough time for everyone to say something. So, all right. So with that, we'll move to our first item, which is a rezoning. This is a public hearing on an ordinance to rezone property from UC-P plan development to UC-P to amend the general development plan located at 10 W Madison Street. We have Director White. So
Good evening, Council President Berge and council members. The rezoning before you, Plan Commission reviewed this and did vote to postpone this project to their December 1st meeting, which would place it before council potentially in the December 8th and 9th meeting. The reason being there were a number of open questions, particularly as relates to traffic impact analysis that is expected to be completed in the next 3 weeks. There was a lot of concern about some of the orientation, vehicle movement through that site, and impacts to the intersection of Oxford and Madison. So it is prescribed by state statute to move the postponement forward and review this at a later date for tomorrow's legislative session. Be happy to answer any additional questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Director White? I'm not seeing any, so
Right,
thanks.
thank you.
If anyone's signed up. Okay, thanks, Eric. Okay, we have one signed up. Looks like a Jan. Or Jam? John? Sam.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, I guess I don't have a comment on that. You explained it pretty good. So.
You're okay? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
You explained it good, so I don't have a comment
Okay, all right. Well, we'll be back in the beginning of the month too, next month, so you're welcome to come back then too. Thanks, Sam, for coming. All right, let's see. So if there's no public, anyone in council chambers like to speak on this item? Okay, not seeing anyone. So then we'll move on to the 2026 proposed operating budget. This is a public hearing on the 2026 proposed operating budget, L.E. Phillips Memorial Public Library, and City County Health Department budgets and special agency funding. And Director Winters.
Good evening, President Berge,
Good evening.
Council. We're here tonight for our first public hearing. We did previously have a public discussion. My presentation will cover all 3 agenda items this evening. We did that similar to last year as well.
So just that, so you will cover the budget, the local vehicle registration fee, and then the schedule of fees and licenses?
Yes,
Just
if
so
that's
everyone's
okay.
aware. Okay.
Okay, so what is in our 2026 budget? We do have the same cost of living as we've had in prior years, 1.25% on January 1st, and then again in July. Overall, that's about a 1.875% increase for our staff on their wages, which is less than the CPI. We do have step increases within our budget for our staff. They're capped. They're capped at step 7. We've had minimal reclassifications within our budget and a 10% health increase. So the reason I'm starting with that is the overall employee compensation package this year for our staff has went down with the higher deductible that they're paying. So we had a 10% increase on our health insurance. Carrier that was absorbing our losses no longer could do that. We went out to bid for a broker. We went out to bid for insurance, which is the switch to Medica as the carrier. We did our best to get those numbers down, but we're going to have to get comfortable with those double-digit increases for the next couple years. But we're going to definitely put that time and effort into it. But the overall impact to the city's budget as a whole is a 10% on our side. But the employee out-of-pocket as well is increasing, and their benefit package did decrease this year. We get a raise, so to speak, on our tax levy in the amount of net new construction. So our growth is 2.3%. Our overall levy to the taxpayers, including capital investments, was a 4.5% increase. We can use $958,000 for operations. Of that, it's split in between the city, library, and the health department. The largest fund that the public counts on is the general fund. That's where streets, it's where all your services are coming from, the parks, police, fire is 40 million of that. Enterprise funds is about the next largest. Water, sewer, storm, it's around 50 million. Skip over those. Tax levy is 56 million of our $100 million budget. Where does the rest come from? Other taxes can include special assessments, shared revenue from the state. It's a really complex system. So there's cities that are our same size, our same population. They might receive $5 or $6 million more than us. So it's really a challenging environment to balance that budget. Expenditure restraint, if we can keep our expenses down within net new construction and CPI percentages, we do get an incentive, so we receive that additional $1 million. We have other revenues coming in from charges for services or sharing of services, fines and forfeitures. But all in all, that gets down to the $100 million in expenditures. But our actual fee schedule that we'll be talking about this evening would be under the charges for services or the 4.7 million. So there's always a budgetary gap, I guess, is my point. Personnel services is 56% of your budget, another 9% contractual services. So around 62% of the tax dollars that are paid under the property taxes are going right towards providing services for the public. I know this is one of my favorite comparisons, just to try to put put things into perspective, but of your $56 million property tax bill, 41 million of that is going towards operations, 15 is going towards your investment in capital projects. So that's your streets or paying for the streets or parks or all of the items that are in your capital improvement plan. And to further put that into perspective, police and fire together are $41 million budgets. So we have a $100 million general fund budget. $41 million in taxes is all that we're receiving on the property tax side. Cost to residents, so the cost of residents per day for your tax dollars based on the current census, and that property tax bill of $56 million is $2.09 a day. 45 cents is going to police department, 42 cents is streets, engineering, including your plowing or your capital investment, 31 cents to fire, and then another 30 cents to the other capital upgrades within our budget. So what have we done? Over the last few years, there's been a referendum on the ballot to hire 12 more staff. We don't have the ability within our current operating levy to hire more staff with our net new construction increase. So we had an increasing demand for calls of service. We didn't have the funding to match that, so we do appreciate the public support to be able to hire those additional 12 public safety officers. We did implement a local vehicle registration fee. It's $24. We projected that to be around 1.1 million. That's been coming in at about $1.2 million. We're using that fully within our capital improvement plan to pay for road projects, chip sealing, rut paving. We lobbied the state of Wisconsin for increased shared revenue. We have a lot of staff members that go down to Madison or network with the league representatives or work with other municipalities to make to try to do our part to make things happen, to fix the broken funding formulas that we've inherited. We've scrutinized some fiscal partnerships to bring more revenues within our funds to pay for some of our like for Hobbs or Carson or Fairfax Pool. Fiscal initiatives. So we make reductions behind the scene, and we do our best annually to get to where we need to be. We did pull all of our capital items out of our operating budget. We're using local vehicle registration fee for the rest of our rut paving and crack sealing. We've been doing a lot of good work on subsidies, parking, with the implementation and paid parking in June. That will remove that subsidy going forward, so we will save around $200,000 annually of tax dollars, and the users of that service will be paying for that service. So it is reducing the burden off the property taxpayers. Small reduction in donations to DECI and the Senior Center and WEDC, utilizing existing staff to meet the council initiatives. So the sustainability position and the parks position, we're going to look inwards rather than hiring an additional FTE. Made some adjustments over the last 2 years and reductions to overtime. Then we had some voluntary adjustments to reduce budgets as well. We added this year free transit passes for Eau Claire area school districts. I believe it was around $20,000 to $25,000, so we can increase ridership from the students. We do have one-time funding within our parking fund. That's to just get the launch off and running. Same in the trash utility as well. One item, the local vehicle registration fee, I'll talk about that's housed within our code of ordinances. So it's hard to see within the budget. We started messaging that right away. That'll bring in an additional $1.2 million within the budget, and that does close that revenue gap to allow us to continue the same level of service. We still have around $4 million in requests from departments for additional staffing. We've invested in some software items that'll have a return on investment rather than expand our staff over the last few years. We've been able to automate some of those systems. Really, our departments have the items on the list, but we always have to say no. So what are we doing right now in addition to all those steps that we've utilized over the last few years? We do have a current long-term fiscal plan. We know what the future, we estimate what the future is going to look like. We're going to solidify that with an external vendor. Continue to still focus on economic development and our growth. The city manager is looking to overhaul the constituent services, so kind of centralizing customer service, cross-training, and then also automating usage for the public. And we're going to continue to advocate on a local option sales tax. Milwaukee's currently the only municipality right now that has that availability outside of a county. I know the sounds of another tax, it's like, wow, I don't want to pay any more taxes. But we have over 30,000 people commuting into the city on a daily basis. And they use our roads, they use our parks, and they do pay sales tax when they use some of those services, and those funds go to the county. Some of the larger, what I would call urban cities, kind of stuck in this middle of this funding formula. So we're looking at kind of relieving the burden on the real estate property tax holders, potentially, enacting the local vehicle registration fee this year, working towards the local option sales tax, and then looking at a reduction on special assessments and the local vehicle registration fee in the future if we could maximize on this as well. But it's really kind of a third branch of all the 30,000 people commuting into the city every day that can kind of assist with that endeavor. So it's one item we are working on behind the scenes. Again, just a reminder on the local vehicle registration fee. We average around 22 to 23 million in transportation expenses annually. Last year, eligible transportation expenses were 32 million within our budget. The estimated local vehicle registration fee increase of $26, it'll take it from a $1.29 million estimated amount up to 2.4. Again, just a graphic representation. So we have 30,364 estimated commuting into the city, 14,000 population moving around within the city, and then another 14,000 do leave, and that's estimated on 22 figures. There haven't been a lot of notable changes within the fee schedule. I've appreciated the support on just continuing to increase the fees that we can by the CPI. Otherwise, you get too far out of line when it comes to the total expenditures and the increases if you leave those stagnant. So we told our departments to look at around a 3% target. Anything outside of that would match the expenditures that were passed on to us. So increased credit card fees and a change in the software at the cemetery. We did have a 6% increase there. We have been decreasing that subsidy substantially though, so we decreased that around $70,000 over the last couple of years. So we've been making good movement there. The only other departments outside of just the percent increase or flat amounts, they make more sense in parking. So there's a flat move there. Within our 3 ramps, street vacation was a flat amount. Pavilions, we are trying something a little bit different to decrease overtime in the back end. Historically, you've been able to rent those for 2 hours. We're looking at a half-day rental and a full-day rental to decrease the overtime and the amount of times that our custodians will be out there, potentially earning overtime and kind of getting the pavilions ready for the next user. A small increase on the Fairfax pool on the daily admission. No increase on the season pass though, so we definitely want to encourage that usage. Hobbs, 6% increase. Brush site is a set amount again, and then the transit does have the adjustment to the free student passes. Otherwise, everything's still in line with the CPI. Refuse and recycling fees that were increased are focused on the actual expenses within that area. So we had one of our large refuse haulers license less trucks, so we did have to increase to cover the respective expenses and neighborhood services of the position in relation that's performing the trash inspections. And as far as the Code of Ordinance and pay plan changes that are related to the budget, we talked a little bit about the cost of living increases. We haven't really been able to expand our benefits package. We just changed it this year. We did make a change to decrease overtime to allow a rolling cap on comp, which means if I work, if I'm an hourly employee and the first quarter of the year I earn 96 hours of comp because it's been a snowy winter and I've earned all that comp, I can use it up in May and June, then I can earn another 96 more. Right now they're capped, and then we have to reimburse overtime. So that we're hoping to track that and show a decrease within our budgets. The other items would just allow you to give us permission to deduct the new ancillary benefits like life insurance, short-term disability, long-term disability from the paychecks. We did move our elections position onto the pay plan. That's just a clerical item as well. There was no wage increase in relation to that one. We did change our health insurance provider, and I did explain that 10% increase. The ancillary benefits we offer as far as the life, the new life insurance through Mutual of Omaha, short-term, long-term, all those items are voluntarily paid by our employees. Other small changes were really clerical in nature. We did eliminate a uniform allowance that we were paying to our telecommunicators. There's a savings there, but we don't require them to wear uniforms, so we no longer reimburse them for that. Physical fitness activity that one's hard to measure, but we do offer 2 vacation days or days off for our officers if they meet the physical fitness incentives. So we're looking at expanding that to the non-sworn employees within the police department as well. So with that, our calendar got a little shorter. Tomorrow on the agenda is local vehicle registration fee first. Then we'll look at the fee and license schedule, and then move on to the operating budget and tax levy for approval. So with that, I'm available for any questions or.
Council President.
Yeah, City Manager Hirsch.
Thanks. I should have mentioned this before, but the presentations are on the calendar page if anybody would like to review them.
Any questions for Director Winters? Vice President Worthman?
Thank you, Council President Berge. Director Winters, regarding tomorrow and the vote, local vehicle registration fee obviously comes up first. Depending on how that vote goes, changes potentially how our budget looks overall. If it doesn't pass, I assume, there would be some differences in what that outcome looks like. Can you explain that to people here today and to the council as well, just how that process goes forward?
Sure. Tomorrow evening, the reason that is first is your budget's balance contingent on $1.2 million of additional revenue coming into your operating budget to continue to pay for all the expenditures that are in there. If that does not pass, your budget will officially be out of balance. We've been doing more with less. Now we will need to be doing less with less. So this will impact service level deliveries. I do have lots of plans. Whether that would align with your strategic goals, I'm not sure, but you'd have to reduce $1.2 million in expenditures within your budget. That means 11 FTEs, I would say, depending on where you draw those from. I would have to pay unemployment costs in relation to that. There's not enough open positions to cover that. So it would mean service level reductions. And you'd have to look across multiple departments in order to balance.
Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Director Winters. Kind of going on with Councilmember Worthman's questioning, you've probably have scenarios of what budget would be with local vehicle registration fee and without. You talked about perhaps 11 FTEs, open position not being filled across multiple departments. Can you speak as to what kind of reduction in services residents would possibly experience, whether it be safety, sanitation, parks, just what kind of actual impacts to residents would they feel if we had to make a
Sure.
$1.2 million adjustment to the current proposed budget?
Sure, I mean, you could definitely look at one department, you could look at multiple departments. I don't really like straight across the board percentages. I like to look a little bit more tailored, which is how I focused things. You know, I ran different scenarios of the cost of the pool being open for one day, but that didn't make sense. It made it, you know, it would be reduction in hours of pool. It could be reduction in, you know, an entire day the library is open, shortening up that gap, or the time on transit in the evening was part of one of my scenarios. It could be, you know, pretty much closing anything for a day. What makes it hard with the new state shared revenue funds that we received a couple years ago is any reductions to police and fire, you immediately cannot reduce their budget from the prior year. You cannot reduce their training hours that you used as a benchmark, and calls for service and staffing levels. So calls for service would be just in relation to EMS and fire. They all have to meet those three initiatives. So it's really challenging to pull money out of police and fire that doesn't impact those large areas. So my scenarios did touch those departments a little bit, but you can't. I'd probably stay away from protective services in that regard. So it's really all other departments: public health, finance, straight across the board.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilmember Mboga?
Thank you, Council President. My question to you, Dr. Winters, I've got a couple of calls from people, and the residents who have called me, they said, a couple of years ago, we had a referendum for the police and fire. The resident say, you know what, we can do it. Then last year, the wheel tax, the sacrifice, they paid it. And this time we are asking them. So they are saying, when will this be? Enough is enough. When can we stop taxing them? Because like there are people who are fixed income. There are people who cannot make end meet because life is expensive. Grocery is up, rent is up, everything's up. So can you speak on that, please? Thank you.
Sure, that's definitely a policy decision. I mean, we definitely can reduce services. We can look that way. This is a revenue increase, you know, based off that direction to not decrease that service level that you're giving to the public. Yeah, it's definitely a hard balancing act, because I think the services that would be reduced are not statutorial. So when you look at parks or transit or a library, there's quite a few different options to reduce the items, but those are also the most affordable ones that maybe you use when you're a single mom, or you know, you need to have better resources like that you can't afford the higher ones. So I think unfortunately those are the ones that we'd be looking to reduce as well. So it's really, you know, it's a policy decision, but I can say the municipalities have the same increases similar to the private sector as well. So we're feeling those increases as well.
Okay. Councilmember Schoen?
Thank you, Council President Bree, and thank you, Director Winters. I want to say thank you for this presentation. I think it's really great, but I do recognize, I think for a lot of people, and we've got a chamber full here tonight, it might still be confusing, and I know that people really feel like they are paying more and more to some of the other council members' points, and we're still here talking about additional fee increases and cuts. And I'm just wondering if you could help everyone understand sort of our fiscal position. I know you touched on this in the presentation, but in particular, I think about if you happen to know how much sales tax revenue our city does generate, and also then comparatively how much of that comes back to us. Because one thing that I've been saying a lot when I go out to my community organization meetings in my district is talking a lot about Eau Claire as a donor city. I think we generate a lot of sales tax revenue and economic growth. It's something we're really good at, but then because of state laws, we're getting very little of that back. And so I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, if you happen to have the numbers, and if not, that's okay. but also just generally then, if we were able to secure some of that funding back to our city that we are generating, if you could just speak to how that might change the position that we're in and whether or not we would have to continue talking about fee increases.
Sure. The previous estimates on the sales tax that would be generated within the city limits are around $9 million. It's hard to say. We can look at what the county receives, but we're not privy to those reports. Those are confidential. So the county receives those funds. They do reduce the taxes overall on the county side, and they're able to use those funds within their budget. So none of the sales tax revenue from patrons shopping from out of town, from the citizens, comes back to the city. We're 67%, I want to say, or 67 to 70% of the equalized value of Eau Claire County. So we're kind of one of those urban cities, like I like to call it. It's just we're such a big piece of the county, but we don't have a lot of tools to use. So we've increased our scope, and people say, well, boy, all those apartments that are coming, and that has helped. It's helped our growth on the numerator side to give us a little bit more money to work with, and it helps distribute out that tax bill a little bit further too. If we were able to get the sales tax, at least it's a choice. It's a personal choice. I don't have to go to the store and buy that taxable item, knowing that the taxes might be higher. But it does help have those contributions from that other tier, in my opinion, of not property tax owners. It's not always that bucket. I would love to use those funds. Again, that's a policy decision as well. But I'd like to reduce the capital that we're having to pay for, which can have a direct impact on the tax bill. We do want to create alleviation, though. At that point, the goal would be to reduce the local vehicle registration fee at that point, and then also make whatever percent adjustment we could on the special assessments as well, because those are a large burden on the taxpayers in that regard. So that would kind of be our financial goal, but again, that's up to the council as well.
Great, thanks. Vice President Worthman?
Thank you. Can you help give a rough idea of the amounts, sort of the what I see as two driving increases in this budget compared to prior years? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's essentially in health insurance increases for employees, and secondly is cost of living and increases that our employees are getting because of inflation over time. What are the rough amounts that you could say, like, this is kind of what is driving our budget this year?
Sure. Every year we receive the net new construction. We focus a lot on growth. It's usually around $1 million. It's kind of down in the $900,000 range this year. We had larger union increases in this contract negotiation for police, and we're anticipating those for, the other two contracts that aren't settled as well. But really the funding gap, we've planned well for many years, so I inherited a good system. We didn't increase the operating budgets, the operating expenses within the departments, so everyone just knew the answer was no. There's reductions. We were able to just get by, but again, you're not advancing either with software or things like that. But the biggest gap that caused us not to be able to balance this year is the health insurance. We always planned for a 2 to 3% not to exceed premium the subsequent years. We had a great relationship, but that business was absorbing our losses. Now they're coming back. So another municipality within the region had a 43% increase offered to them. I don't know where they'll settle. Again, they'll have to make adjustments, but that's our largest problem. So the employees shared in that, but the employer has to share in that as well.
Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Council President. Director Winters, in the ordinance change proposed for the local vehicle registration fee, there's a section 2 that states that the fee shall be considered for proportional reduction with the local realization of a statute authorizing a sales tax. So could you kind of explain that a little further about how, if the state were to allow the city other revenue sources, then we could take the local registration fee and reduce that proportionally? Is that the meaning of this Section 2 clause there?
Sure. I mean, it'd have to be a large lift. So we see this $26 increase as kind of a temporary step. We're going to look at further reductions next year. We're going to have to address the service level reductions. We have already addressed some this year, but you'd have to have a large revenue source come in to really remove this. Now, your operating budget will be dependent on that $1.2 million. If we received a large increase in local option sales tax, or if they were to legalize marijuana and pass that through, I mean, that'd be a larger amount coming to us, 5 million or greater, that I think we can address that and remove that $26 increase. And council also does have the ability to act on that fee increase every year as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Boga?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I have a comment. So I'm going to address the whole, everybody's here and the people are listening to us. So
Can you save your comment for tomorrow, or this is for a question?
yeah, it's the same as.
Okay.
It's a question, but a comment.
Okay.
So can you speak on graduate wheel tax?
The graduated wheel tax?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're looking at me to
A
explain.
graduate
I'm
wheel
sorry.
tax is when people have big trucks, they are supposed to pay more than somebody who has a small car. That's
Sure. The local vehicle registration fee allows us to only charge a certain number of license plates, and it's up to a certain amount of tons for the vehicle. So those larger trucks that are coming into our municipality pay the state. And part of the state general transportation aid pool of money down there, that's one of the amounts that goes into their fund balance, and then they're giving it back to us that way. So we can only charge certain license plates within our municipality that are customarily kept here. So I'm unable to make any changes to the program or the policy or charge those big trucks like some people have suggested.
Can I make how much money do we get from that?
We receive general transportation aids at around $3.3 million. It's based on our average spending. So if we decided to decrease our street spending, that is something that I look at on an annual basis to make sure we're still hitting those benchmarks to keep that steady amount of revenue in. If we decided not to do any streets for 1 year, that would have an effect. I'd be able to calculate that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I don't see other questions, so thank you, Director Winters. We'll now open up public comment, and we'll go off of the list. So I'll prioritize people who have signed up, and then I'll open up to council chambers. Thank you. Okay. And we did hear, so Director Winters did speak on the budget and then the local vehicle registration fee, as well as the local schedule fees and licenses. But I will still kind of separate it by item, stay organized. So first we'll do the proposed operational budget. And we do have, there's 5 people signed up. So we will start there. So Sam, would you like to speak on this one?
No, I have a comment on the wheel tax, but.
Okay,
I'll do that later.
next one. Sounds good.
Okay.
And you're on, yep, you're good. You're first on the list. You must have gotten here early.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Good. All right, Deb Marshall. Good evening.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
It's me again, Deb Marshall, 315 Riverfront Terrace in Eau Claire, and chair of the Downtown Neighborhood Association. Diane Leader, our vice chair, and I have been reviewing both the capital improvement budget and the operating budget related, of course, to the Galloway parking ramp. A few questions we asked about via email from Dave Stolberg and Leah Ness over the past couple of weeks unfortunately went unanswered to our knowledge. And Kitsy and Corey were great in getting us budget information they had, but they didn't have access to the details that the engineering and technology departments do, and so referred us to them. So, since we didn't get answers from those, with same questions will get asked here again, right from our emails that we sent out on October 27th and November 3rd. First, the passport enforcement module. It was hard for us to tell if this module that uses the license plate recognition system to issue tickets is already something that the city owns, or if it is budgeted for in 2026. We don't know that. It seems like it'd be a pretty easy question to answer, but we don't know that, and would like clarification on that. If this still needs to be purchased, is it going to be in the budget? When will that be bought, installed, and operational? Second, controlled access gates. Again, where are those included in the budget? We didn't see that. Is it a capital expenditure or is it an operating budget? We think capital, but can't see where that is included. Where we looked at the capital budget, we saw line items for kiosks, but only kiosks were listed there. When Diane and Dave Solberg and Andrew Worthman and I met in late July, we agreed that those gates really are necessary. And third, the collection for parking ramp violations. We're not sure where this is or if it would be in either of these budgets, as it might be more of a procedure. But we also want to know when and how this will be administered and when the city will start issuing tickets 24/7, because that will be a big source of revenue that should be able to help out in the budget. So on a more general thing, we have done hundreds of hours of very relevant research, especially Diane. We've documented our findings in detailed emails to city staff and spoken at numerous city council meetings to address the critical ramp issues. We're very concerned that the information we saw in the CIP mentions only kiosks and nothing about controlled access gates. As the parking study consultant had said, the ramps need to be safe, clean, and well managed, and that revenue must be collected to help pay for parking improvements generally. If kiosks go up first and the ramp stays as it is, the problem will only get worse. We can't be in good conscience, I think, push people toward to park in the ramps if they aren't safe first. Regular patrolling is also critical to ensure the ramp is used only for parking. The city will not have an excuse to say we didn't know if and when a serious injury or accident happens there. Legitimate users of the ramp, as well as those of us who live next to it, have been harmed by its poor management. The ball is in the city's court to do the right thing here and now, and right now, this budget year, to ensure that these items are included in the budget. I talked with Andrew last week on the phone and said he would be introducing a budget amendment to that effect, and so we hope that will happen. I'm not sure what else we can do. A couple other quick things. Exactly when will the new parking administrator be hired? I hear January to start it or end it, or not sure. And if you ever include residents in this process, I'd like to be considered, because I have about 35 years of executive search experience that might be helpful. And also, we'd like to be included in any discussions with this person on issues that need to be addressed with the ramps, so.
Great.
Look at that.
I know,
5
you're very good.
seconds. I'm
Thank you.
at
It's like
this.
you've been here
Thank you.
before. Thank you, Deb.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Diane?
My name is Diane Leader. I live at 211 Wisconsin Street downtown, and I'm the vice chair of the Downtown Neighborhood Association. We're seeking budget commitments for corrective actions for the Galloway parking ramp to address the concerns of our downtown neighborhood residents. These include, 1, the collection of fees and fines facilitated by a properly operating license plate recognition system, enforcement of failure to pay parking fees and subsequent vehicle registration revocation by the installation and effective operation of the passport enforcement module, access control to the ramp to prevent failure to pay, and the use of the ramp for non-parking purposes like exhibition driving and other illegal behaviors. And I've been doing a casual log from my apartment with view. This is 3 pages. It's by no means all the shenanigans that go on the ramp. And this just goes from January to August. And by the time I had tabulated August, I was so tired of reading about the CRAP that goes on the ramp that I stopped at the end of August. Over the past year or more, we have spent hundreds of hours, and that's literally true, studying the current operation of the ramp, researching effective parking ramp management, interviewing managers from cities that do parking effectively, like Appleton, researching and studying the Passport parking product. We have, 1, identified actual harms caused by the improper management of the ramp. 2, we've documented all of our efforts regarding the Galloway ramp. And 3, we've kept a log of observed improper use of the ramp. The responsibility is yours now to make sure the funding is there in the 2026 operating budget and the 2026 capital improvement plan to make sure the improvements to the Galloway ramp are made in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Then we have Jay Vincenz. Hi, welcome.
Weird being on this side of the
Once
this side
again,
of things.
yes.
Jay Winzenz, 3905 Damon Court in Eau Claire. I want to talk a little bit about some historical perspective on the operating budget, and then I'll talk a little bit specifically about the 2026 budget. We're going to be looking at 2 different time periods, 2018 through 2022 and 2022 through 2026. Between those time periods, in 2022 to 2026, the annual CPI average change was about 4.13%, compared to 3.12% from 2018 through 22. From 2022 to 2026, general fund operating expenditures increased at an average rate of 5.19% per year, compared to 1.96% from 2018 to 22. The average annual increases for general government were 8.22%, public safety 5.84%, community services 1.76%, and engineering 1.14%. From 2022 through 2026, the total number of city employees paid through the general fund increased from 389.5 to 428.75. That's an increase of 39.25 employees. From 2018 through 2022, the total number of city employees paid through the general fund increased from 387 to 389, 2. From 2022 through 2026, the property tax levy increased at an average annual rate of 4.88%, compared to 2.9% from 2018 through 2022. And general fund debt service as a percent of the property tax levy averaged 22.36% in the early period. City Council recently amended your debt policy, which eliminated that 25% limit. The proposed debt levy in the 2026 budget increases now above that 25% limit to 25.13%. Specifically in this 2026 operating budget, I just want to point out to folks that there are costs that are being shifted from the general fund budget through to other non-general fund budgets through the use of service fees. $923,900 is being shifted from the general fund to the stormwater utility. $421,300 is being shifted to tax incremental financing districts. That's $1.3 million in costs that used to be general fund that are now being paid by these other entities. These are taxes. These are taxes on the residents of Eau Claire that need to be paid through your stormwater fees. Whether you're a business or whether you're a property owner, you'll pay stormwater fees. The TIDS, the transfer from the TIDS means that those districts will need to be open longer in order to break even. Lastly, I'd like to point out that the 2026 budget proposes over $1.6 million in personnel costs that are being paid from revenue sources that I believe will expire at the end of the year. The City of Eau Claire is facing a fiscal cliff in the 2027 budget. You all are going to have to make some very, very difficult choices. These are all in addition to the health insurance increases and the wage increases that you all will be experiencing. I'd be happy to answer questions.
I don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Right. Dale Peters.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome. I'm Dale Peters, 1725 Rush Street, and I want to thank you for your service, because without members of the community doing what you do, we cannot have a highly functioning community, so thank you for that. In terms of the budget, for decades, levy limits and shared revenue meant that revenues didn't keep up with inflation or service demands. We cut services, we maintained roughly the same number of employees, while people with the same services, and we weren't able to increase those services. And that was not sustainable. And Andrew and Emily, you heard us say that a lot, right? That we were in an unsustainable situation. In the past few years, though, increased shared revenue, the previously passed wheel tax, the referendum, the proposed wheel tax, and shifts from administrative costs to other funds has provided more than $6 million in additional revenue to the general fund. That's $6 million of money, additional money, above and beyond what you would normally get through your levy increases. And there are millions of dollars of one-time COVID money. There's been an unprecedented amount of new revenue, which is, I think, fantastic. This new funding, as Jay pointed out, was used to create 39 new positions, new services, and priorities. Unfortunately, many of the 39 positions were used not with the age-old principle of using one-time money for one-time expenses. The wheel taxes are not being used to increase roads or public transportation. Road work remains at historical levels, and instead of increasing public transportation services, the proposed wheel tax will be used to eliminate the general fund transit subsidy, which allows more general fund spending. As Jay pointed out, $1.6 million of SAFER and ARPA money is in the 26 budget that runs out next year. At the same time, there's dramatic changes and cost implications of the health insurance, which is your second largest operating expense. You had a significant change to your debt policy, which unfortunately was not deemed newsworthy. And Councilmember Miller, you were correct to ask questions about the impact of that. And as Jay pointed out, this budget already exceeds the previous policy. So as a community, we went from not having enough money to keep up with community growth to unheard amounts of money, which did provide an opportunity to address increased service demands. Unfortunately, one-time money has been used to hire people, and instead of using that new revenue for that ongoing expense. And this approach, of course, is not sustainable. Long-term fiscal responsibility is arguably the most important responsibility we have. It creates trust and the resources to create a safe and sustainable community. As Jerry outlined clearly, the city's on the edge of a financial cliff, and because of unstable increases in expenses. There are some very hard decisions ahead of you. Historically speaking, you've had substantial revenue increases. Unfortunately, you've had voluntary increased expenses services that exceed your sustained revenue. At this point, you have no choice but really pass the wheel tax, and still leaves the city on the edge of this fiscal cliff. Our hope is that you will engage in these difficult discussions early through with transparency and engage media reporting in 2026. Please know that our comments are meant to raise awareness, perspective, and engagement. We're not here to find fault or to provide criticism. These are difficult topics and decisions, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and we appreciate your commitment to tackling difficult leadership issues in a civil and transparent and engaged manner. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you. All right. So we'll move on. Well, anyone would like to speak on the budget? And next, we are going to go to the vehicle registration fee next, but at the overall budget. Anyone in Council Chambers like to speak on that? All right, not seeing any. So So then we'll move on to item number 3. So this is the vehicle registration fee. And Sam, you're up first again.
Okay, I just want to say,
Oh, yeah, can you come up to the podium, please? Thanks. You can talk on the microphone.
I think everybody wants to know if the wheel tax is really necessary. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. But if it is necessary, it's necessary, and we need to know where the money is gonna, how the money is gonna be spent, and we gotta make sure the money is spent wisely. That's, that's all I have to say
Thank
about
you.
that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sam. Thank you. Okay. Jay Winsons?
Council President Berge, members of the City Council. Want to talk a little bit about the vehicle registration fee, and I'm going to call it what I'm used to calling it, which is the wheel tax. The wheel tax is a very regressive tax. It is a tax that everybody has to pay, and it taxes every vehicle that a family owns. You cannot exempt the first vehicle, which would be nice, but it applies to every vehicle. So, when a family needs a vehicle to get to work and they can barely afford that vehicle to begin with, they now have to pay the vehicle registration fee. According to Wisconsin statutes, vehicle registration fee has to be used for transportation-related purposes. The concept of that is that you're taxing the vehicles that have wear and tear on the roads, and therefore the users of the drivers of those vehicles that use the roads pay to maintain it. Now, in this case, in this wheel tax, the proposed budget uses most of that to decrease the general fund subsidy to the transit system. So while the wheel tax dollars are being used for the transit system, which technically is a transportation-related purpose, I don't think it's consistent with the statutory intent or the spirit of the legislature when they enacted the wheel tax. Now, if it was being used to expand transit services, I could definitely see how it would apply, because in that scenario, you're expanding the transit routes, trying to encourage people to use the transit system rather than drive their vehicles, which reduces the wear and tear on the roads. But that's not the case here. It's simply being used to provide more general fund revenue to pay for existing programs and services. Next, I find it hard to believe, and Dale touched on this with all the new revenue, that, given a 2023 referendum of $1.4 million, given a 2024 wheel tax of over $1 million, given the increased shared revenues of $1.35 million, notice I said increased, shared revenues haven't decreased in the last 4 years period, that there should be sufficient revenues within the city to be able to pay for existing services. Please note, if this wheel tax is increased to the level proposed, it would be the highest wheel tax in the state of Wisconsin. You all have been left in an impossible situation, and several of you touched on it earlier during the budget discussion. This issue should have been decided months ago, before the budget was prepared. You all are now placed in a situation, and Councilmember Worthman, I believe you touched on it earlier, where if you don't approve the wheel tax as proposed tomorrow night, you have created a budget crisis. Because at that point, you have no way to balance the budget unless the administration has cuts in mind already. Coming forward with cuts that propose reducing basic services to the community because this wheel tax hasn't been approved, I don't believe is fair. I think, in my opinion, you should be taking a look at the services and the things that have been added in the last couple of years. And that would be looking at the entire Neighborhood Services Division, which was created just a couple of years ago and now has a very substantial budget. I think that it was really unfortunate to place you all in this position where your hands are really tied. I expect that you all will approve the wheel tax because To not do so means you're not going to have a balanced budget and not going to be able to produce the property tax levy at the required statutory time. But it's an impossible situation for you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Jay, we have a question for you. Councilmember Mboga.
Thank you, Council President. Check. Thank you for giving us a lot of thoughts. What do you think? I'm just wondering, what do you do for a living?
I am retired now. I formerly served as the finance director for the city of Eau Claire.
So what's your proposal?
What's my proposal?
Yeah, to help us to
think-
get the creep.
I don't think you have a choice at this point in time. I think that tomorrow night you have to approve the wheel tax because doing so will create a nightmare. My proposal to you would be that if you approve the wheel tax, you amend the proposal so that it sunsets at the end of 2026.
Thank you.
All right, that's it. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. So Dale Peters, or, sorry. Then Elizabeth.
My name's Elizabeth, 5720 Gables Drive. I launched a campaign a little over 2 weeks ago with Americans for Prosperity. I'm sure we have flooded your guys' inboxes and your emails. We were spreading awareness and education for the people in the city of Eau Claire about the wheel tax, strongly opposing it. Here today I have with me 99 signed paper petitions, and we sent you all over 256 emails urging you to oppose the wheel tax increase. Right now is a super detrimental time for families, especially in Eau Claire. We're dealing with higher property taxes, higher energy bills, and a higher cost of living. And another fee increase, especially on something as basic as the ability to drive to work, drive to school, or appointments, should be completely off the table right now. If all current spending is truly essential, then the public should be given the chance to decide if they agree. That's transparency. Putting it on a referendum, letting your citizens of Eau Claire decide, is the right thing to do. Before asking taxpayers for more money, has the city evaluated whether every current spending item is more important than fixing roads or funding transportation? If the answer is yes, then city leaders should feel confident enough to bring the wheel tax to the voters in the referendum. Families are really tightening their belts right now and struggling to make ends meet, working more hours and then getting taxed more for it, and adding a tax just so they can pay to drive their car somewhere is unacceptable, and especially paying more than Madison or Milwaukee in Eau Claire is absolutely unacceptable for the people in our city. If you are confident in this proposal, bring it to a referendum and let Eau Claire voters decide. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. And I missed your last name. What was your last name?
Willier.
Willier?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Could I bring these up to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
you can. Yeah, thanks. Have a good night. All right. Cindy Burton. Hi, welcome.
Cindy Burton, 3242 May Street, Eau Claire. Responsibility and discipline, that's why I'm here, or maybe lack of. Why are governments always looking for new ways to squeeze more money? It's because they're spending too much. Most government entities have gotten excessively addicted to spending other people's money. Eau Claire's no different, but Eau Claire could choose to be different. I know you participate in training about how to get your constituents to go along with more spending compared to other cities. Look what they're doing, we should do it too. That's following. How about leading? The time to deal with this crisis is now. The spending addiction cannot go on forever. The massive indebtedness cannot go on forever. It's time to face the music. Let's treat other people's hard-earned money with the respect and with the frugality it deserves. Have you ever seen a car repossession? Until this year, I had not. Now I've seen 3 in the last few months. 2 in the work parking lot and 1 in my daughter's neighborhood. They don't look like when a car is hauled away for a repossession, it looks very different than when a car is towed for not starting or a mechanical problem. It's very sad, and I've never seen that before this year. So let's focus on the things that only government can do. Police, fire, basic infrastructure. The rest is not government's job. My health is not government's job. And by the way, if you're still allowing that neurotoxin, that industrial waste product, fluoride, to be put in the water, don't pretend to care about my health. My charity is also not government's job. My entertainment is not government's job. Do you think it's government's job to tax us out of our homes, out of living in Eau Claire? Let's do better. Let's get ahead of the game now while it's easier than what it's going to be. Start by voting no on this doubling the wheel tax. Don't be a rubber stamp. One other thing. I've heard people say, I don't know if this is true, that we were told the wheel tax would be temporary. I don't know that that's true because I pay no attention to those things because I know that's not true. But now if that's true and now we're, instead of getting rid of it, we're doubling it, I mean, that's just ridiculous. We got to do better. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you. Thanks. John? Methuen?
How you doing, John Methuen?
Oh, that's good. How you doing, John Methuen?
2342 Vesterheim Street. I didn't come with a big prepared statement, but I do appreciate, the time and effort you guys put into the community. So,
thanks.
And I'm sure you feel a lot of heat about this. I'm just vehemently opposed to a wheel tax and increasing wheel tax. I actually left Minnesota about 22 years ago to move to Eau Claire, and I left the political climate and the high taxes. And one of the things I used to joke with people that back there, I used to show them how much I paid for, my wheel tax the tabs, because they paid so much in Minnesota. And then I started joking with people that they put a wheel tax on top of our wheel tax, and I said I'm going to have to run for city council if they decide to put a wheel tax on top of the wheel tax on top of the wheel tax, which is where we're at today. I've seen the frustration. I see, it sounds like there's a lot of things going on. I'm not a numbers person per se, so I'm certain there's a lot of things that are, in your minds and that you have to fit in the budget. And so I don't want to throw a lot of heat on you guys, and, I just want to shed some light. And actually, I guess for me, more light was shed for myself today. I mean, I see your side, with the budgetary concerns that were going on. It just sounds like there's a proverbial gun put to your head with regards to this action. Some of the other things that were brought up by Mr. Peters and Jay certainly were interesting and eye-opening. And it does sound like you're kind of backing into this or backed into a corner with regards to what's going on. I assume if I come here tomorrow, if the vote is going to be tomorrow for the proposed wheel tax, that you're going to pass it by and large because you're kind of backed into that corner. That's what I feel like. I could be anywhere tonight. I'd rather be in my couch rooting for my team. There's also a standards-based education thing that's going on through the public schools that's going on tonight over at North. And it's just so much change all at once, and I just oppose it. I own several vehicles, and many of them are of the blue plate variety that don't require a yearly thing, but it's getting so expensive. And am I going to be hurt by another $50? No. Am I going to be happy about it? No. You know what I mean? So I just, like I said, like I am opposed to people wearing cheese on their heads to root for their favorite team, I'm opposed to this wheel tax, and that's my point there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh, we have a question for you,
John.
Jimmy?
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Go Packers.
Fly, Eagles, fly. I'd sing, but.
But you're out of time, sorry.
Yeah.
On the road to victory. Okay. Grant?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So.
Oh, here. Yeah, you can start up here. Yep, great. Welcome.
So good evening, council. My name is Grant Birnbaum. I live on 3027 Eddie Lane, Eau Claire, on the north side. And I don't have the same repertoire as most people here. And I'm actually here from out of town. I moved into this city about 10 years ago to work at one of the new buildings that came up in Altoona. So over time, I've seen kind of the same thing from most governments, is that we want to spend more money. And when you're spending trillions of dollars every 100 days, I mean, I don't know, is that really a responsible thing to do? In a democracy, you let your citizens vote. You don't pass a 7-2. You don't say, well, we got to do a referendum and we're just gonna have debate on it. Well, I think your constituents deserve to choose what their taxes are, and taxation without representation is not appropriate. And we all sit here and we say, well, we've got all these problems and these issues, and that's fine if we got issues, but we got to find out a way to fix them. And it's not going to be putting all of the money on your constituency. I don't think that that's fair. You know, you guys are, you were voted in to represent us, so represent us and find us a way to not have wheel taxes. I mean, just like some of the other people have said, we drive. A lot of us drive. We don't want to use the transportation system. We've created a society where we all want to drive ourselves. That's just the way it is, you know, and there are people that don't even use the transportation system. And now we've built a whole new building to utilize that system. And it's like, really? I've lived in La Crosse. It doesn't get used very much. Let's just be honest. It's just not it's just not a sustainable model. It's just not. And then there are people that are concerned with theft and crime and all other stuff that is related to that. I mean, even with the security stuff that a lady had brought up before, we don't even have any information on like the security and all that stuff. I mean, it just seems like it's very, very low effort and a lot of spending. So, you know, I'm not blaming you guys. You know, I was encouraged to come here to say something, and that's what I'm here to do. You know, that's what we want. We just want to be represented. People are not represented anymore. We're just told, well, here's your next tax, and let's just take it and keep paying. That's not fair. You know, there are a lot of people that are a lot lower than me that pay the same wheel tax that I would. I'm not saying that I'm at the bottom of the barrel and I'm suffering, but there are people that are a lot lower than I am, and I respect all those people, especially if they work and they have kids and a family. That's not, you know, it's not fair to them. You guys are a lot higher up than them. What are they supposed to do? I mean, honestly, what are we supposed to do? We say no, and then you guys pass a referendum anyways. Let the constituents decide. Say, hey, you know, instead of us choosing for you like we did the first time, why don't we let you guys decide? And, you know, Larry brought up a great point with that, you know. People don't want to spend more money right now. We all know that. Just look at the national debt of our country today. I mean, that should be enough right there. You don't even have to argue anything else. $37 trillion. Really? And now we want to add in more debt that we don't even have the fiscal, like, system to sustain it. We got to start cutting. We have to. Or we're going to end up in a very, very bad place, just like everybody else has said. I mean, you know, it's just very upsetting. And then for somebody who hasn't lived here that long and to see that, I don't know. It's just one of those things where, you know, you guys are going to have to make a hard choice. And I don't think passing a wheel tax is going to make it any easier for you guys at all. So just to let you know, there are people in the city that do not want this stuff. And yeah, you know, there are ways to collect taxes, and I think there are better ways to collect ways to make more money for the city that I think can be utilized. And cutting staff is probably a good start. So, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? That's the end of our list. Anyone else in chambers that'd like to speak on the local vehicle registration fee? Did I skip someone? Well, if you can come on up.
Yes, he was.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. What was your name?
Good evening, City Council.
Good evening.
My name is Jimmy Lemke.
Oh, yeah. Yep, you're on the list.
I reside at 2130 Sunray Circle, Eau Claire. I'm a citizen and taxpayer. I have, on November the 6th, I emailed each and every one of you. You should have received it. I have no indication that you did not receive, but what I'm about to read. The proposed Eau Claire City vehicle registration fee is more correctly called the Eau Claire City wheel tax. Since all vehicle owners are paying their vehicle registrations to the state. Since the city of Eau Claire is going green, then asphalt and concrete should not be placed in bike and walk trails in city parks and elsewhere. Asphalt and concrete are definitely in conflict with going green. The city bus program is in conflict with going green. City buses are operating empty of passengers or nearly empty of passengers, and many times 6 days a week. City buses are observed flying past many of the bus stops without picking up or dropping off passengers. The city buses are extremely expensive to purchase, to maintain. They use fuel, use tires, cause wear and tear on our city streets and pavement. The apartments over the city bus garage in no way should have ever been constructed. The new bus station is far too expensive. Federal program money should have been used for the street surface maintenance, since streets are fully infrastructure. Far too much money has been spent on projects that have nothing to do with city streets. And you, as Eau Claire city officials, you must begin to understand needs versus wants. Do I need something or do I want something? Well, in government, you have to make decisions the same way, just like we do in our own households. Needs versus wants. Can't get everything that we need. City staff says that if the $50 local wheel tax is approved, it will make us the highest local wheel tax in the state, and an increase in 2 years from 0 to $50. It's a 108% increase in 2 years. That's way more than inflation. We elderly and low-income citizens cannot afford more in taxes. $30 county wheel tax plus the $50 proposed city wheel tax adds up to $80 wheel tax per each vehicle per each year. It's tax upon tax. And where's it going to end? So in conclusion, I just want you to consider on every issue, needs versus wants. Do we need it, or is it just that we want it? Thank you very much for your time, and I really advise all of you to please vote no on the city wheel tax, or vehicle registration fee, so-called wheel tax. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. I think we have a question for you, Mr. Lemke.
For me?
Yep.
Hey, thanks for coming down, Mr. Lemke.
You're welcome.
I would look back on my email, and I saw you and I corresponded a few times over the years, so.
Yes, we have.
Thanks for being in touch. I agree with you, and I want to share this. I agree with you. You mentioned the county vehicle registration fee, and one of the things that I think you and I both agree on is that all of Eau Claire residents pay into that county vehicle registration fee, but all that money gets used outside of the city of Eau Claire. And that is something that I hope that in your advocacy, and I know that we do it as well, is saying, hey, we should be seeing more of that money that the county collects paying for our own streets. And so I want to thank you for being in touch on this issue and raising that issue, because that's part of this. That $30 we should be getting back into our community, because we don't drive we drive county roads once in a while, but we don't drive county roads every day. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. That's a very good point. Appreciate it. Appreciate your all time.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone in council chambers like to speak on the vehicle registration fee? Yeah, come on down. Just want to state your name and address, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Don Motzing. I live at 404 Gilbert Avenue. I just want to say, like what Jay said, I think earlier, he appreciates, or maybe it was Dale. You guys look alike. From the back. Whatever. I appreciate your service. I appreciate your time. About 6 or 7 years ago, I ran for city council, and as I was running, I was thinking, well, I have the time to do what you guys do. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I also know that when you're engaging in a budget battle, not a battle, budget deliberations like this, it is difficult. It is a battle because you're dealing with wants and needs, and you're probably trying to analyze what is it that you really need and what do we want and whatnot. So I appreciate how hard it has been to come to the conclusions that you've come to, because nobody likes imposing taxes on people. I doubt if you do. But I would say that in families all across the state, certainly in Eau Claire, they're struggling with budgets. Everybody knows inflation has been through the roof over the last 4 or 5 years. It's come down a little bit now. Fortunately, gasoline is down substantially as what it was a year or two ago. But there's still insurance costs of those vehicles. And it's just very difficult. And I can afford extra $24, $26 a year because I've lived on less money that I've earned, I've saved, I've prepared for my retirement, plus I'm healthy enough and I have a credential as a CDL driver to have a little bit of hustle in my retirement. So I can afford it, but there are scores, there's thousands, hundreds of people in the city that have to have a vehicle because they don't live on a bus lane and they're having to get to work wherever that is. And you know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But I guess after 2 years to come back to the city, and not even through a referendum this time, say we're going to do it again. Jimmy had said it's 108% increase in inflation, which we're all frustrated with. And there are many people in the city that can't afford it, or they're going to have to give up something else to do this, to pay for it because they can't get along without their car. I drive a 13-year-old truck. My wife's got a pre-owned vehicle as well. And older vehicles break down more. And so the costs and expenses of trying to stay within one's budget when they're really poor, it's a struggle. And somebody also said, where does it end after this? You know, is it going to be another 2 years when it's going to go in? I liked what Jay had said earlier, that you're between a rock and a hard place and you really have no choice probably at this point. I would be embarrassed if I would have run for city council, or I did run, had I won and had to do this, I would be embarrassed. What is wrong with, my leadership on city council that I can't stay within my budget? So Jay had made a comment about the potential of grandfathering it or sunsetting it in 1 year and say, a year from now, we're going to fix this problem because it's very, very difficult. So I'll just finish by...
So you're out of time, so.
I'll finish by saying thank you for your time. Any
Thank
questions?
You. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank
Have
you
a good
for your
night.
time.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else in council chambers like to speak on the local vehicle registration fee? Hi, welcome. Hello. Just want to state your name and address, please.
Jonathan Spires, 515 Maple Street. And as I know, my council member is not in council today. I'm not really here. I'm not as technically smart and knowledgeable about the wheel taxes. I'm just your normal everyday worker. I work a 12-hour shift in Menards in the concrete bagging plant. And I drive, as the gentleman before, I drive an old 2014 Ram 1500 that's fallen apart. And I'm now, as I'm looking at it, when I got my registration for this year, I'm paying the $45, the current price. But next year, I'm going to be paying over $200 on my registration, which the truck is falling apart. And I come from, I'm a transplant, like a lot of people who come to Eau Claire. I moved from Chicago, the northernmost suburbs, and I'm paying as much, I'll be paying as much next year as I did in Illinois. And Illinois is now even worse now. I just feel that if I wish you would look at the everyday person who's just trying to live. I'm not like a lot of people. I don't have a lot of savings because I was sick, and I lost a lot of money for 4 years being sick. So I'm on a fixed income too, like a lot of people. And I feel that if you pass this, it's going to hurt a lot of people. And I can't believe that we can't do a gradual, even something not even so steep, just a little gradual, and see how it helps. Because, it's just one of those things for me. I'm just trying to tell people that, it's going to hurt us. It's going to hurt a lot of people. And I know you guys are under a lot of pressure too. But there's a lot of stuff too that, as I've seen throughout this living here the last 9 years, it does seem like the city still thinks you're a small town. You're growing every day. People are coming. Like this last year, Eau Claire was ranked number 5 tourist.
Number 7 in the state.
Yeah. So that should tell you we're not the small city we were back in the early 2000s, in the 90s. And I have friends who've lived here all their lives, and they're saying it's just getting out of control. That it's the old ways of people, how people think. But these people are the ones who grew up here, lived here all their lives, and they say it's just sometimes it's starting to get more and more away from what Eau Claire was. And I just agree. I just think that you should maybe take a harder look at this. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down. Anyone else in council chambers like to speak on the local vehicle registration fee? Anyone? All right. Everyone's avoiding eye contact with me, so that must mean no. All right, so then we will close that agenda item and move on to the schedule of fee and licenses. And we do, Sam signed up for this too. Would you like to speak on this, Sam? Come on up if you'd like to.
Sam Chapman, live 1700 Oxford Avenue. No, I don't have
Okay,
anything to say
all right.
about that.
Thank you for coming down. Anyone else in council chambers like to speak on the schedule of fees and licenses? All right, everyone's leaving. So we will close that item, and I think that's it. Oh, now we have our public comment period. Was anyone signed up for that? Okay. So no one has signed up for that, but anyone in the council chambers like to speak during the public comment period. So these are things not on the agenda. Yeah. Could we just have it quiet in the chambers, please? We're still having our meeting. Thank you. Just want to open up the public comment period. Does anyone in council chambers like to speak on the public comment period? So this is a period where you can speak on something that's not on the agenda. So anything else? All right. I know one signed up for that, so we will close that. And that means this meeting is adjourned. So thanks, everyone.